Hello everyone, welcome to UI UX session number 2. This session is all about approach and thinking of UI UX design. So in this session, we are going to cover fundamentals of visual design. So basically, this is session number 2. So if you haven't attended our first session or you kind of missed it, you can always check it out on YouTube. Links will be provided in the chat section pretty soon. So for starters, for folks who didn't attend the first session, let's start with what is UI UX design. UI UX design or user interface slash user experience design is one of the most highly sought after skills, and it is also one of the most top skills of 2020. It's on par with artificial intelligence and machine learning, and it is like one of the most important skills of 2020. And this UI UX design skill falls into this category of new age skills or internet age skills, where anyone could learn it, but they need to put some time into it. And luckily, you are like putting your time into this session, and thanks for joining in. So before diving into the contents of today's session, I'm going to give a quick recap about what and all things we had actually covered. So the first session was all about getting started with UI UX design. So in this session, we had covered a lot of topics ranging from design process, like a design process overview and a quick introduction to Figma. That is a UI design software. So before diving on to the contents of today's session, let's give a quick recap. So here, we had seen that design is all about solving problems. Like we had made a statement like design is all about solving problems. That means design is not always about making things look good, but along with making things look good, your main goal as a designer is to solve problems. So that means you are making the life of the user easier, right? So this is all about the main structure of design. Why designers are like paid higher. So this is mainly because they solve problems and they internally affect the sales, and they will increase the sales of their particular product. So now how to, like we had seen that design is all about solving problems, right? So if we are thinking about solving problems, then we need to have certain process, right? How to approach yourself to the problem and how to solve that problem. So that we had covered in this process that is called as a design process. So basically, design process is nothing but it is a process which states how to approach a problem and to arrive at a particular solution. It's like exposing yourself to the particular problem and to arrive at that solution, like how to design in such a way. So in the design process, we had all these 6 steps. That is, we had first one is research. We had information architecture. We had wireframe, visual design, prototyping, and developer handoff. So basically, we had went in depth in like in all these concepts. So if you have like missed your session, you can always check it on YouTube. So and then along with this design process, we had also seen a quick introduction to Figma. So Figma is like a UI design software where you can create screens for your apps, website. You could also prototype your you could also make some prototypes so that you can get the feel of the app. So everything would be done in Figma. So to introduce people to like tools and skill sets, tools. So we had also designed a sign up screen. This was a sign up screen which what we had designed in the last session. So we had also shared the Figma file link in the chat box, I guess, and it is also present in the description of the video. So once again, I'm going to reshare this so that you can go through all the contents that we have seen. So now let's move on to the first session. Now let's move on to the contents of this session. So before moving on, I want to ask you one question. Like, what does a designer do at the end of the day? Like, what and all things he will design? I'm just talking about the visual design aspect here. What and all things he will design? So the answer could be, he might design buttons. He might, make use of some text. He might also, like make use of icons, illustrations, photos, and these are all like UI elements. So what he's going to do is he's going to combine all these elements in making a beautiful looking screen like this. So, if you're combining all these elements and you want to make a beautiful looking screen, you need to take certain design decisions, right? You need to take certain design decisions. Now, how so these design decisions are, like driven by some design guidelines. Like they are going to help you out to take a better design decision. So these design decisions are basically driven by design guidelines. So that design guidelines is also, you could also call those guidelines as, like fundamentals, you can call it as principles, checklists. So basically, when you're designing, you're not going to think always about these guidelines, but when you want to troubleshoot your design, or when you want to redesign, or when you want to fix certain things in your design, you're going to think about all these guidelines. So that is our today's session, that is on fundamentals of visual design. So that is today's topic, what we are going to cover. So that being said, now basically there are like many fundamentals in visual design, right? There are mainly 6 principles basically that you have to remember and you have to think about. So that 6 main fundamentals or principles are balance, emphasis, hierarchy, repetition, proportion. So these are the 6 main principles that involves in making a good visual design. So these are balance, emphasis, hierarchy, repetition, proximity, and proportion. Although these might look, for some it might look complex, what I'm going to do in this session is I'm going to give you a practical sense of it. Like I'm going to share the websites, the screenshot of websites and apps, so that you will get to know that how these principles are exactly being used. So how these particular principles are being exactly being used, and so that you can improvise your design. So as I said, these principles are nothing but used to troubleshoot your design and often acts like a checklist. So I have maintained a curated like screenshot so that I could explain it better. So basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to end this presentation and then we'll move on to Figma, because if you're a designer, you're going to spend your time like 90% of your time in Figma. So getting used to Figma is also better. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to end this presentation here, and then we'll move on to Figma, where we have all sort of screenshots of to give some practical sense about what are the things we are going to cover today. So basically, we had seen that there were 6 main fundamentals, right? We had seen there is balance, there was emphasis, there was hierarchy, repetition, proximity, and proportion. Now let us look at how websites actually implement all this stuff, like how websites will actually implement all these fundamental principles and make good design decisions based upon that. So our first thing is, now if you are new to Figma, check out our previous session, because we had introduced all the key important points that you have to know while you're using Figma. Basically, how I'm zooming is I'm just pressing Ctrl and scroll button. So now let us look at the first principle, that is balance. Balance is nothing but, it is basically how your design, is it symmetric or asymmetric? Balance is actually symmetric. Now you know what you mean by symmetric, right? Like if there are like the number of items on the left side of the screen should be equal to the number of items on the right side of the screen. So that means it is symmetric in nature. Asymmetric means just the opposite of symmetric. So a good balanced design is always makes what like clean designs are always visually balanced. So let us look at how this balance principle is being used in our like practical example. So this is a screenshot from Unacademy. This is a feature section of Unacademy website. So this design looks balanced, although there are all the several other principles that is being used here, but mainly we are focusing the first principle, that is balance. This is looking balanced. Now why you might think it's looking balanced is that if I divide this screen into half, now let me take a pen tool and I'm just going to divide the screen into half, and I'm going to increase the stroke weight. If you just divide the screen into half, you can see here that it is balanced because there are 2 elements on the left side of this stroke and there are 2 elements on the right side of the stroke. So like there is one section called as daily live classes, structured courses on one side, live test and quizzes and unlimited access on the other side. So this looks balanced and this looks symmetric. This looks clean. So this is how balance is being used. Although you're not going to think like, hey, every time I need to think about balance, okay, so I'm going to maintain all this stuff, because as I know new design stuff, like as you practice more, this all become intuitive. Like you need not to think about it. But because this session is like focused to beginners, I'm just going in depth with all these things. So now that being said, let us look at one more example. This is a screen from Zomato ka website. So here, once again, the same thing. If you just half the screen, you are going to get two cards that is trending this week and Denglu's finest on the left side, and then micro breweries and best bars and pubs on the right side. So this is how balance is being maintained. Now, if you look at these examples, you might jump to a conclusion, right? Like similar elements should be on the left and right side of the screen. That's it. Like that's it. What means balance? But visual balance is something like different from actual symmetry definition. Actual symmetry definition means like number of elements on the left side should be equal to elements on the right side. But visual balance is also meaning that if you have some section on the left side, let's say for example text on the left side, then there is one image which balances out all these text elements in the right side. This is also visual balance. Like I help bring product from wildlife, something on the left side. So this image is balancing that whole text. If this image wasn't present, only like this logo carousel and only this text was present, this might not look balanced. Like this will feel some kind like an off. Like so that is why balance is really very important. So this is how you use balance. Now moving on to the next principle, we have covered one principle, that is balance. Moving on to the next principle, it is emphasis. Emphasis, as the word suggests, it's about giving importance or prominence to your design. Now, if you want, if you want to make certain UI elements more prominent or more important, you're going to emphasize it. You're going to use this emphasis principle in your designs. So let's take an example of something like a portfolio website where you have a lot of text, if you have a section called as about me, you're going to write everything about yourself. So there, usually when you're giving it to to someone to read it, usually they not read through everything, right? They are going to look at certain keywords. Basically, emphasis is being used in websites like this is a website from 10K designers. This is from Abhinav Chikara. So here, this is the about section screenshot that I've taken. Here he has got a lot of text here. That is, this is text heavy content. But what is done is he has just highlighted few keywords and then he has emphasized it by making it bold, by changing the from, I guess this is regular and this is bold, by making it bold and also giving certain different color rather than the purple color. Like he has made 2011 to be in bold and white color and this to be and this is in purple color. So this gives a clear contrast between your keywords and your text. So rather than reading through the whole text, the user could just look at these important elements that you have emphasized it more. So like for example, if you want to know about Abhinav Chikara, you can just read like he's a startup founder. He he co-founded a music chat app like Listen, and he also written a book called Pajama Profit. So this is how in text, so that the user will get a rough idea of what the entire text is saying about. So this is how you use emphasis. Now basically, emphasis doesn't always relate to text. How it, I said emphasis is about giving importance to UI elements, right? So text is not the only UI element. You have many UI elements in a screen. Now, let's take this example. This was the same screenshot that we have designed in the previous session. Like we had designed this same exact sign up screen. So I've just taken a screenshot of it and I'm just cropped it out. So how I have used emphasis is that basically there are three clickable elements, right? There are create a free account is a clickable element, terms and condition is a clickable element, and then login. So as a designer, I thought giving emphasis to create a free account is very important. So what I made is I made this into a button by using the rectangle tool and then giving a fill color to it, so that this will become highlighted. This feels like a button. This basically all these buttons and all are called as call to action buttons of CTA. So this is also, this terms and condition is also a CTA, but this is a primary CTA. Now, when you have 2 or 3 CTA, what you're going to do is you are going to give emphasis to only one CTA. Just like you can't have 2 to 3 chief minister in the same state, right? You should only have one chief minister in this, in the state. In the same way, if you have 2 to 3 call to action buttons, you are going to make one as primary, one as pretty main, and then others as like secondary and tertiary. So primary is usually given a fill, and then tertiary and secondary are not given any container as such. So we are going to also observe some other examples so that you will get to know. Now let us take a look at this screenshot. here a company is selling a product, okay, like looking for a new laptop, and basically there are two CTA buttons, that is now or no thanks. Now I said design is about solving problems, right? Design is about solving problems. So it is also to improvise your sales. Basically, what this designer has done is that he has given emphasis to shop now. That means if you want to sell your product, you want to shop it to users, right? Like that is why he has made the shop now button more emphasized rather than no thanks. This is why this is a primary CTA and this is a secondary CTA. Now let us look at how CTA buttons are actually designed. If you have basically like 2 to 3 buttons, how you are going to give prominence or how you are going to give emphasis that. If you want to make a primary CTA, what you're going to do is you're going to give a fill to it. Like you are going to make a rectangle and then you're going to give a fill to it. If you want to make it as a secondary CTA button, what you're going to do is you're going to remove that fill and you're going to give a stroke. And then if you want to make it in a tertiary, you're just going to remove all the text elements, all the container elements, like for example, fill and stroke, and then you're going to just leave it with this text. The same thing what I've done here is like create a free account is a primary CTA and terms and conditions. I've just made it into a tertiary CTA rather than giving it a secondary CTA also, because people usually don't read terms and conditions, right? So I'm just de-emphasize it very much so that it is not being highlighted. This is how you use emphasis in your designs. I hope you're getting clear with all balance and emphasis, right? So now moving on to the third principle, 3 out of 6. So the third principle is hierarchy. Hierarchy and emphasis both are similar words. Like hierarchy also means giving importance. Emphasis also means giving importance. But when you are looking at hierarchy principle, it says that you are giving importance to UI elements based upon their position on the screen. If you are an English reader, for example, you are going to read from left to right and top to bottom, right? You are going to read from left to right and top to bottom. That means the most prominent and the important element will be on the left side of the screen or on the top side of the screen. This is how hierarchy has been maintained. This is how you are going to give prominence. Emphasis doesn't matter, like it doesn't matter wherever you can place your UI element, but hierarchy is dependent upon the position of UI elements. If you are from CSS, like if you are from CS background and you know like HTML and CSS, you might have seen this chart, right? Heading 1, heading 2, heading 3, or H1, H2, H3, or you know like title, subtitle, paragraph, body, and text. So you know that heading 1 is being made more prominent by giving it a more font size, heading 2 smaller font size, heading 3 smaller font size. That arrangement of UI elements is also hierarchy. This is like king, queen, prince, slave, so something like that. So that is also hierarchy. So now how you are going to exactly use this? I said importance is also based upon the position, right? Now let us look at this example. This is an onboarding screen. Basically, you don't know what is onboarding screen is. Onboarding means you know, when you install a new app, that app is going to give some kind of a screen saying that all the information or all the features that has been available in the app. So I've just taken a screenshot of the onboarding screen of a particular app. So here, according to the hierarchy principle, left, if you keep the elements on the left, that is prominent. If you keep elements on the top, that is prominent, or on the center of the screen. So here, illustration, since it is on the top, it is given more prominence and therefore it is in higher hierarchy. And then simple abroad calls is of lower hierarchy. So here we have two text boxes, right? Simple abroad calls is as a title, and then bootstrap converts international calls to local calls. So that is your subtext. Basically here you are maintaining hierarchy by this is your main title, a simple abroad calls your main title, and then bootstrap converts is your subtitle. This is how you maintain that hierarchy structure. If you miss it, things will not look good. It will, like, it kind of looks off. So according to hierarchy principles, you can say that, like, you will jump to a conclusion that saying you know the illustration is of higher hierarchy, text is of lower hierarchy, text, like the subtext is of lower hierarchy than the main text, and then comes the CTA button, which is also of lower hierarchy. But you know, hierarchy doesn't like this definition is not applicable to CTA buttons. This is because if you look at CTA, it is being popped out. Here they have used the emphasis principle, like they have just popped it out. And then usually, if you go back like the hierarchy principle, you need to keep your CTA here, right, on the top of the screen, But this isn't actually practical, right? Because your accessible area is only this, because it is easier to access and it is having a touch area here. So therefore, usually the CTA buttons will be on the lower side of the screen. That is how, along with all these principles, you need to also think about accessibility. You need to also think about like practical sense. So that being said, let us look at one more example. This is a screenshot from HR interview. So here, this is like a mega website which has covered. I can use this as a like to cover all the principles what we are like whatever we have discussed till now. That is balance, emphasis, and hierarchy. Now this design looks balanced. Why? If you just take a look at this navigation bar, you can see here that the logo is in center, and then there are 4 elements left side of the logo, and there are 4 elements in the right side of the logo. That means it is having a visual symmetry, right? So now, also, you can also see that it is also balanced in such a way that in the left side of your screen, you have all the text that like the art of hiring, and also do you need an artist to breathe art, and then you have 2 CTA buttons on the left side of the screen, and then the right side of the screen you have this huge illustration which balances out all this text. So that is how you implement balance in your design. Now how you can observe the hierarchy is that, if you just look at this text, the art of hiring is of higher hierarchy, that like that is given more prominence. And then do you need an artist is is a subtext, and then that is how hierarchy is being maintained. And you can also see that here they have maintained, like here they have 2 CTA buttons where the designer has given more prominence to higher artist, and he has made it as primary CTA, and then this as secondary CTA. This is how you analyze websites. Now, if you're a beginner and you're just starting out in UI UX design, the 2 main things that you have to do is you need to first copy websites and apps. You need to take screenshots of websites and apps, and then you need to copy and you need to replicate the same in Figma. That is how you develop that kind of intuition, and also you'll get used to tools. Second thing is that you need to analyze why websites have done that. Like now now you're getting to know about the principles, right? So now if you analyze websites, so that you will not think about in visual design language, like how it is looking good. Like you're not going to say that it is looking good because of the colors, like the colors is popping out. Rather than that, you are going to say that this is visually balanced. This is like it is having a good hierarchical structure. That is how you develop your design language, which is very important. Like if you want to apply for any startup or internship, sorry, if you want to apply for a job or an internship at a startup or a company. So that being said, now let's move on. We have covered 3 principles, right? Balance, emphasis, and hierarchy. The 4th principle is repetition. Repetition, as the word suggests, it's about creating some sort of a pattern. So repetition is the most used principle. You might have seen it on famous apps and websites like, let's say, Google, YouTube, or even WhatsApp. See, this is a screenshot from WhatsApp. So here, how they've used repetition principle, it's very obvious. That is, they have used list items. This is one list item, that is ploy. This is in some I guess it is from Spanish language. So this ploy. So this is one list item, and they have duplicated it. So why repetition is mostly used is because it is easier to browse things. Like let's say you want to browse a chat, you can either look it from the DP or the display picture, like in this section, or you could also look it from the names. So this makes browsing experience easier. This is why repetition principle is being used in Google. You can also see that Google uses all this repetition principle for giving out all the information. It is also used in WhatsApp. It's also used in YouTube, where thumbnail is being given on the left side of the screen, and then text is being given on the right side of the screen, so that you can look either by the thumbnail or by the text. And many famous apps like Zomato and Swiggy also uses this the repetition principle to their advantage. Now let's consider this screenshot from Zomato. Now consider me as a hungry user, and I'm not very rich. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to browse through the food section by looking at only the price. I'm not going to look at what food I'm going to get. I'm also not going to look at where is the location. I'm just going to focus my eye towards only the price. So now we know that price is being given to the right side of this icon, that is this money icon. So that now you get to know that that here it is 1200 per person, this is 1000 per person, this is 900 per person. So you need not look at all this extra information. You have to just only focus your eye towards only this icon and then this text, so that this will help you to increase your browsing. Like this will make browsing easier. This is why reputation is being used on almost on all like food app and also like Flipkart, Amazon. So they use this reputation principle to their advantage. So like if you are designing any shopping app or also like food app, make sure that you use this like reputation principle, which is prominently used everywhere. So reputation is not always about repeating things. Like you might jump to a conclusion that it is like repeating your list items, but it is also creating some sort of a pattern. This is a screenshot from Shopify. Basically, how they have used reputation to their advantage is that you can see here that create a community for impact. Text is on left side and then image is on right side. Coming to the next section, this has been alternatively changed. Like image will come on the left side. We are rewriting the rules of our modern economy on the right side, and then basically at each step you're just like they have just alternate things, right? So this is how you create a pattern. Like if there was a fourth section, your brain will know that the image will be on the left side and then the text will be on the right side. That is how they use this repetition principle to create some sort of a pattern, so that users can guide through the text very easily rather than looking at the all these images. This is how repetition is being used. This is the fourth principle. So now coming on to the fifth principle, fifth and the most obvious is proximity, which is most people will actually make a mistake in proximity. Now proximity is nothing but white spacing or spacing between the UI elements. As a human, you need oxygen to breathe, right? In the same way, your UI elements also need some space around it so that it can breathe. Now, basically, many beginners make mistake with proximity or spacing. Proximity principle says that if you just keep your elements nearer to each other, if you keep your UI elements nearer to each other, it will feel like a group. This will if you don't keep it near to each other, this will like it doesn't look like a group. So now let us look at this example. This is a section from Shopify. Now here you can clearly see that there are three sections, right? Award winning support is one section, career opportunity is one more section, present media is also one more section. This is becoming obvious because they have a good amount of spacing between award winning support text block and the career opportunity text block. This is how spacing is actually used to create they have not put rigid lines or they have not even made cards. They have just given enough amount of spacing. Spacing is also one more element which you need to take care of. So here you can also see, like you can also think about other design principles, right? Here you can see career opportunities of higher hierarchy. This is how principles, all these principles are also being used in everywhere. Like all the UI design screenshots and everything, we'll try to implement all these design principles. Like there is no rigid boundary between each other. So that is what I wanted to see. And just look at this example here. This text block, that is podcast using life savings to kickstart a plan of business, whether this text block is related to this master's car image or this shopping bag car image, you can clearly know that this is related to this image because here the spacing between this text block and this image is lesser, and then spacing between this text block and this image, that is shopping bag image, is greater. So by the rule of proximity, you will know that this text block is related to this image. This is how proximity is being used. Now I also show you how proximity is really important. Now take a look at this two example. This is a screenshot that we have seen for repetition. Which looks good to you? Either this side or the left side or the right side. I hope you say right side. This is because if you give that is because in the left side of the screen it is becoming more congested, right? There is no breathing space for your elements, but here there is a good amount of spacing. Like there is some breathing space. So now if you give spacing to elements, that is what makes websites look premium. Like if you want to make your products look premium, give a good amount of spacing and a good amount of oxygen to breathe to your UI elements. So that is what proximity principle is all about. So now moving on to the last property or the fundamentals of principle. This is proportion. Proportion is not actually like Not everywhere it is being used, but proportion is being used when you want to give a comparison property. Like when you have selected any item, that item become bigger with like it will become bigger in proportion with respect to all the other items. All the other items will become small. This will become larger. This is how you use proportion to your advantage. Now, this is most obvious. This is the most obvious example. This is a screenshot from YouTube. Now here, like without all these visual cues of like play button and all this timeline, you can get to know that the user is looking at this particular screen because this is out of proportion rather than all these thumbnails. This is how proportion principle is being used. This might look obvious to you, like why is this guy saying? But design principles help you to make your design look obvious itself, because you have to never give surprises to your users. This is how you make users' life easier, because they they need not to think much more like using your app. And good designs never have a design manual, right? The manuals are only given when it is tougher to use. So your job is to make users' life easier. So your job is to make designs look obvious. So this is also one more screenshot. This is from H2 Trivia. Here, how they have used proportion is that without even looking at these words, I know you have also not seen these words, right? Like this has 17,000, 6,000, 31,000. This is a question. Now, you can know that Germany is the correct answer because they have given a visual emphasis to Germany by giving this green color rectangle, which is in bigger proportion than these two gray color rectangle. This is how proportion is being used in an effective sense. This is how proportion is usually used when you want to design selected states or also quiz apps like this. I hope all these principles are clear to you. Like I'm going to share this file so that you can always come again and then go through all these examples. By the way, this is the same Figma file that we have used for our first section. So basically, if you don't know, Figma supports multiple pages. So here in the first page, we have the screenshot. We have the sign up screen that we have designed in the first session, and in this and in the second page we have this all the examples. Now I also made a statement, right? Principles are being used when you want to redesign something, right? So now let us to wrap up this session, I'm going to take a look at how we can redesign something. So now this is an example that I've chosen, basically to give a good context about what this design is all about. Consider a company X is selling laptops. Consider company X is selling laptops to their users. So basically, they are giving three options for the users to select from. So they have three categories. That is, one is light, one is standard, and one more is professional. They have three categories here: light, standard, and professional. Now, light is for like internet browsing and light things like internet browsing, email writing. Standard laptops for image resizing, exporting PDFs. Professional laptops for high intensive tasks like video editing or also 3D rendering. So consider this to be like a section that should be used in your website or some app where users are given three options to choose from. Now this laptop, by the way, just giving some kind of a context. This is not a part of the design. So now before redesigning, so I hope you got some context about what this design is all about. So why I'm redesigning. So when you want to redesign something, first thing what you need to know is why you are redesigning. Like what is the reason why you're redesigning? Because if you don't give enough reasons, then nobody is going to value a redesign, right? What problems are you solving? So for that, I'm going to take type tool and then I'm going to write down all the problems, why this design looks okay, and where are all the areas of improvement. Now, what are all the problems that you can see here? Think about in the principle that we have taken. Basically, there is no title. That is the first problem for me. Although choose a category is a title, but there is no clear hierarchy. I'll say why. I'll just write hierarchy. Why I chose hierarchy is that, if you just click on this, you'll get all the text properties here, by the way. So this is 16 pixels and this is also 16 pixels. So that means, although this looks like a title because it is outside of all this text, but since it has equal font sizes, it doesn't look prominent to me. Like it doesn't apply the hierarchical principle. So hierarchy is one thing that like there is one problem with hierarchy. Second thing is that there is like it's like too compact, right? This is what usually beginners make a mistake, that is on proximity. There is not enough white spacing. It needs to breathe, right? So the third thing is, this is a classic example of two CTA buttons. As I said, you can't have two chief ministers. You can have only one chief minister. That is only one CTA button, one primary button. You need to give emphasis to only one button. But here, the designer has given emphasis to two CTA buttons and made previous and proceed also important. So that is a big no-no. So that means there is a problem with emphasis. And the fourth thing is that the last thing is, this button text is in black color, and then this container is in dark blue color. So, here it might be visible, but when you're looking at with less like a resolution device, there might be a chance that this dark color might go even darker, so that there will be some contrast issue. So you need to check the contrast, right? So the fourth and is contrast. Although I know I didn't talk about colors in this session. Anyhow, we can always discuss in the upcoming sessions too. By the way, reminder, like we'll also be conducting upcoming sessions. Make sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and everywhere. So now let us redesign this, right? So this is made into a group. This is named bad design. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a duplicate of it. How I'm going to make a duplicate is just by holding Alt. Third, we can see what is the before and after. I'm going to make a duplicate by holding Alt and then dragging it down. So that I have, like, this is like a checklist, right? Like as I've said. So the first most obvious thing is hierarchy is missing. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to select this text. And before that, I'm also going to change the font. If you can see here, this is Roboto. Roboto is like default font of Android and Google. Basically, if you want to make, custom designs are always, good design. So if you want to make a custom design, use a custom font, which you love. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to select all this text by holding Shift on my keyboard. And I'm going to change the font from Roboto, which looks okay, to something like Moolish. Moolish. Okay. This looks far better for me. Although font is all like subjective to a designer. So now I'm going to use hierarchy principle by selecting this text and then making it extra bold. Just going to bump it up, and then I'm going to increase the font size. Basically, all my subtitles are at 16 pixels. So a good rule of thumb is that if you have subtitles in 16 pixels, so just increase it 2 points for your title. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to increase it to 18. And okay. Now this is having somewhat an okay hierarchy. So although I said there are 3 categories, the categories aren't being even emphasized, right? If you want to know the category, you have to read this whole text. But let us make it look better. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to move all this out so that I'll have some space to work with. Just going to move it down. Same way, I'm going to move these things down. So I'm just going to work with this. And this radio button is looking too large for me. Like this is out of proportion. So I'm just going to decrease this size from 18x18 to 14x14 by holding Shift on my keyboard, because I want to resize it with proportion. Now I'm not even looking at spacing, but I'm going to cover it now. So I want to emphasize the title or the category light more and then de-emphasize all the extra text, right? Because I want to make it obvious. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to select this text and then hitting enter on my keyboard. I'm just going to give a spacing. So here, the title, I'm going to keep it at bold and then 16 pixels itself. The below text, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to select all this text, changing it from bold to semi-bold. And then I said, like, you can dial it down to 2 pixels, or you can, increase to 2 pixels or 2 font sizes. What I'm going to do, I'm going to decrease it by 2 font, that is 14, to make a clear hierarchy. And I'm going to de-emphasize it by lowering the opacity of this text by making it 60%. Now this looks good because light is being highlighted more. I'm using the emphasis principle here. So let us resize all these buttons to like this radio button. What I'm going to do, I'm going to alt for changing it from center. I'm going to make it 14 cross 14, as I said earlier, and also making this 14 cross 14. Okay. So this is starting to look good. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to do the same thing for these two examples, like these two text boxes too. So I want category to be emphasized. So standard is emphasized. I'm going to select all the extra text and I'm going to dial it down to 2 font size and then making it semi-bold and then lowering the opacity from 100% to 60%. Okay. And I'm going to move this above. I'm going to do the same thing for this professional. I want professional to be highlighted. I want to make that into, like prominent. Here also I'm working with hierarchy itself. I'm making professional title and the others as subtitle by making it semi-bold, by making it 14, and then by lowering its opacity from 100% to 60%. Now, this looks cool, right? Now, if you look at the spacing here, spacing between all these elements are not perfect. Like if you just look at it here, I had given basically like the bad design had the spacing between elements. Here it has 11 pixels, 11, and the spacing between title and here was title and here was 14. If you want to maintain a consistent design, if you want to maintain consistency, choose either give spacing in either even number or odd number. If you are giving in even number, like here it is 14, try to maintain that even number everywhere so that your design will look consistent. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to choose even numbers for spacing. I'm going to increase this to 12 to let's say 20 or 18. And then between all these text elements, I'm going to give a spacing of 16 pixels. 16 pixels look good. This is how proximity I'm just working out. I'm just giving sufficient amount of spacing and also I'm maintaining spacing even numbers. So I'm going to change this from 22 to 32 and then 28 pixels. Cool. And I'm going to increase this rectangle. Now let us work with the last part, that is the contrast and the emphasis. Like I have to make one primary and one secondary, right? So here I want to give more importance to proceed because I want this cell to happen. I don't want this cell to cancel out, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to delete this rectangle so that I'll make it like user knows that this is important, like this button is important to hit. So like hit proceed. So I'm just going to leave this container. And by the way, I'm just going to increase this text to 12 pixels. Don't ever decrease the the font size to below 11 because that will look too small. And okay, and I'm going to fix the contrast, right? I'm going to change this from black to white. This looks clean to me. I'm going to center align this by using my alignment tab here. Okay, now it's taking shape, right? Now it's looking good. So I'm just going to select this previous. Now this doesn't look like a call to action button, so I'm going to change this color from black. I'm going to use this color picker to change this to blue. Okay, yeah, this looks clean. Now which looks clean, guys? This or this? I hope you love this design because this is looking good to me. Now I'm going to maintain that spacing of this is in odd numbers. I'm going to maintain it to even number. Let's say 24 will look good. Here I have 24. I'm going to decrease the spacing here. Just going to play around with the spacing, that's it, nothing much. I hope you get the point about using the principles correctly. This is how you redesign stuff. This is just redesigning only, now I'm just redesigning only a small section, but when you're going to redesign a whole website and all, you need to think about all these principles itself. So I'll just make it into 32. 24, okay. 25, 26, 27. Okay, 27. I'm going to increase it one more pixel, 28. I hope you got the idea about redesigning. Now, this looks good, right? Than this, because this has fulfilled all our principles and it looks spacious. It looks clean for me. Although I can also increase this from 60% to 70%. No, it's fine. I'll just keep it at 60%. This is how you redesign. So for this, you need to iterate a lot of things. Like you can come up with very much different designs. So I hope this design. So that's a wrap. That's it. That's it for this session. I hope you get all the principles and what not, and like how to use the principle. So I'm going to share this file so that you can just come on to Figma and then look. Okay, so that's it. That's it for this session. So we have some 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes. So if you have anything to ask about or you have any doubts, you can just ask it in the chat box, or you can open your mic and speak with me. Software to design. Software, I have used this Figma. There are many softwares available. Like there is Adobe XD, there is Sketch, but I prefer Figma, and I also suggest you to use Figma itself. Figma is pretty good and it's pretty easy to learn, and you can learn it from a previous section, by the way. And there is also one more thing. There is a feedback form, guys. Please fill it up. How to start with the portfolio? Please provide the link of Figma. Figma link is being provided here in the chat box. We are also going to put it up in the description of the video. How to start with portfolio? Okay, portfolio. If you want to start with portfolio, the first thing is you need to redesign stuff. You need to make you need to take a bad UX example, like for example, banking apps and government apps who doesn't even give a shit about all these design principles, and then you need to design it and make it look good, and then you need to write a case study, like how and all, like what and all process you took it, so that you can create a portfolio. So if you want if you want to apply for a job, you need to have at least 2 to 3 case studies, and any more questions, you can obviously open your mic and ask me. Like there are links to our social media accounts being put up. Please follow us. There are upcoming sessions also. So if you want to get more updates on our sessions, we are also providing free content too. Like along with all these live sessions, we are also providing like carousel. Like we are making carousels. So that it is like knowledge bites. So you can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, everywhere. What is the difference between UI designer and visual designer, or both are same, just different name? Yeah, UI design and visual design is both and the same. Basically, in design process, there are like research, information architecture, wireframing. I said research, information architecture, and wireframing. All those things are a part of UX design. Visual design will come under UI design itself. Like UI designers will work with visual design. Yeah, Gautam has actually put up how to make a good portfolio. Can do a session on color selection and its impact? Yeah, sure. Actually, the next section was actually planned to be on color theory, colors, contrast, saturation, hue, and all those things and all those stuff. So please follow us on Instagram so that you can get updates on when the next section will be. So if you have any doubts, guys, put it on chat, or you can also like ask it. So guys, if you have any doubts, please ask, because this is pretty important. This is like getting serious to UI UX design. The first session was actually like a rough introduction. Any suggestion for web application? I didn't get you, Raghav. Can you open your mic, dude, and ask? I didn't get what is web application. Like, what do you want to design? Hello? Like, what do you want to design in web application? Like, what sort of web application are you talking about? Is it website? Like, how to design websites? Is that the question, bro? Can you tell about yourself or your experience?
Yes, sir. Hello.
Yeah, hi, Raghav.
Hi, sir. Sir, it's about create our own websites, no, sir. Web application using some framework.
Okay. Don't understand, sir. I'm just a student itself.
Okay.
So, if you're talking about web applications, if you're talking about coding, I'm not a coder. I'm I'm not a developer. But if you are interested in non-coding, there is a platform called Webflow where you can create and build beautiful looking websites without the help of code. Like you can create all sort of interactions and everything as such. So there is one platform called as Webflow. So yeah, you can use Webflow. There is also WordPress. You can use Squarespace, but that is all it's not too much customizable. But Webflow is fully customizable. You can use your designs in Figma, and then you can implement on Webflow so that you can build live websites, websites also. Link is also being provided in chat. Thanks, Gautam. By the way, Gautam is our CEO. Okay, can you tell about yourself?
Thank you.
Akram Shah. Yeah, Webflow is very interesting. Yes, it's quite interesting and it's quite extensive. It's a very useful skill to have. Okay, Saurish, can you tell about yourself? Yeah, by the way, my name is Sudan Vacharya and I'm product designer from AthrV-Ed. So my experience at AthrV-Ed is great. Like I've learned a lot, a ton. Actually, when I started in engineering, I didn't know about all this design and all. So basically, I started with video editing and stuff. So as and when I started with video editing, posters, and then I got into UI UX design based upon suggestions given by our mentors. And yeah, working at AthrV-Ed is great. Like it's awesome because if you are a designer, it's also a plus because our CEO Gautam Naik is also a designer. So it's a big motivational boost too. Like when you have CEO who is interested in design, it's a big motivational boost too. So yeah, and AthrV-Ed is a very beautiful community. It's like all beginners are respected, and everyone will get equal opportunity. So yeah, my experience was great. As I've said, I have made like at Instagram you can always check out our videos and stuff. So me and our team are going to design and develop all those things. So yeah, any question, guys? Any question? Hey,
Sudan,
hey Akram.
can you hear me?
Yeah, bro. Yeah, I can hear you, bro.
Yeah, so when you say product designer, so what are the steps to become a product designer? Because I am predominantly working on web design.
Okay. Web design in the sense,
So
is it Webflow or
let's say website design,
okay?
like UI part only.
Okay.
Let's say if you're talking about e-commerce or landing page, something like that. Predominantly, I'm working on that. If I wanted to be a product designer, what are the steps I should be taking?
Yeah. Okay. Product designer. See, I had actually covered a gist of it. Now, since like I'm also product designer, I'll just say it. Like there are UI design. You can become a UI designer. You can become a UX designer. There's also like a full stack designer, that is UI UX designer. Basically, UI UX design is all about making good looking screens and making thinking about accessibility aspects and all. A product designer, along with this UI and UX principles, is also going to think about how this product is going to be sold, like how to do good marketing, like how to sell your products in the best way. So if you are starting out with product design, like if you want to take your career as a product designer, one thing that you need to know is you can always think about sales in the later part. The first step is to develop your UI and UX design skills. So basically what you need to do if you're a beginner is that, wait. So we had actually done this carousel, I guess. 1 minute, guys. 1 minute. I'm going to reshare. 1 minute. So we have actually pushed all our things into Figma itself. Like we have separate Figma files for everything. I hope this will load. Okay. Basically, we had done a carousel called how to get started with UI UX design. I prefer you to go with that method. Like copy. The first step is to practice design by copying. Copy designs by take a screenshot of like good looking apps and websites, and then put it on Figma, and then try to make a copy of it. Try to replicate this stuff. Basically, this is our whole Figma file where we have done all our carousels and stuff. You can see this is quite messy, like I will say, but yeah, this is that we have started. Like, how to get started? Let's start it with practice by copying. Second step is to analyze like existing apps and websites so that you get some kind of an idea about how to design stuff. So that will give you some kind of an intuition. So I hope, bro, I'm a little bit confused between difference between UI and UX, and you see this example today. Yeah,
I would like to add.
Sorry. Yeah, cool. Yeah.
So whoever has a question about how can I become a product designer, or what is the difference between UI UX and product design? So basically, when you talk about UI, it's more about making the screens and making it look good, making it more accessible and stuff. So when it comes to UX, it's more about the user and the how the user experiences it. And when it comes to product design, it's more about how the entire product is being developed, not just one screen or one feature or one software being developed, but an entire product, and how that product is going to get revenue to your company. So you need to, as a product designer, you need to think in a more business perspective and not just in a usability perspective. Okay, so UI UX designers usually think about in a usability perspective, and it's also when it comes to product designer, they also think with along with usability, they also think about the business perspective. So that's the basic difference actually.
Thank you, Gautam. Thank you. It's very well put.
Thanks. Thank you. Thank you for clearing the air. Bro, I'm still confused with the difference between UI and UX. UI is basically, UX is taking the design decisions. You know, I don't know how to put it. Basically, if you consider a company whose product is chair, the looks of the chair you're going to design as a UX design. That decision is going to be taken by a UX designer. I hope this analogy helps. So is it like, did you get it, or like you want some more examples, bro? Saurish. Like the looks of the chair is been, taken decisions by a UI designer, and the feel and the process and how the experience is being taken by a UX designer. So I hope you get it. Thank you. I've started learning about just 1 week back. Great, bro. That's a great start. Self-taught designers are actually, becoming prominent in the market. So yeah, that's a great start. I hope you become a product designer in your future. And all the best to you. Yeah, okay. Okay, guys, if you have any more questions, ask it. What if I have two buttons like save and clear? How will you give a prominence, say as primary and clear as secondary, or differentiate with colors like green and red? Same thing, don't differentiate with colors. The same last example was that there were two buttons saying, proceed as the primary CTA and previous as the secondary CTA. So if you have such things, what is the primary action that you want the user to do? Think about it and make that as the primary CTA. Let's say save is very important to you, like very important for your product growth. So you're making save as a primary CTA, and then clear is like less prominent, so that you are making it as a secondary CTA. So how you are going to do is, you're going to make a special container for save, and then you're going to leave, you're not going to give a container, like let's say a button, you're just going to keep it as a text. So that is how you create the differentiation between two CTA buttons. I hope this helps you, Lohit P. Did you get my point, bro?
Yes, brother, I got your point, and thank you.
Okay. Okay, bro,
Like, can I have a light color to the clear button and a little more dark, like green for the save, kind of,
so if
so
you
that
give
it highlights for the like primary?
Yeah, okay. 1 minute. I'll just show you once again. What will happen if you just give light color? So
like white is better, I guess, but still it's a button, right? With a border.
Like if you give it light color, light color is also good, but usually light colors you are going to give it when it is in disabled state, right? If you are going to design your for example, unless and until a user chooses a category, right, your button should be disabled, right? So that you are going to make it using light colors. So I guess you can't make it with you can't differentiate by using light color and then dark color. Basically, light colors are used when you have to make disabled state. So I prefer to move with this method that I showed you before. Like if you want to make clear distinction, please use this. Please use this as your, like a reference. If you want to make primary CTA, give it a fill. If you want to make it as a secondary CTA, give it a stroke. If you want to make it a tertiary CTA, just don't give anything. Just keep it as a text. I hope you get my point, because this is actually being, exercised and being used in all the UI designs. And it's not good if you like use other design principles other than the recommended principle, because that will that will confuse the user. So I hope you will prefer this table that like whatever I created here. I hope this will help you. Did you get my point, bro?
Yes, Sudanva. But
Yeah.
why not border for the secondary button?
Yeah, you can border in the sense, yeah, that like for primary CTA you are given fill, secondary CTA you are given stroke. So that means you are creating a border, right? In the same sense. Like what do you mean by border?
It looks like button if I give a border. The example you have showed is like it's like some link or something. It doesn't look like a button, right?
Yeah,
That's my point.
yeah. Actually, here primary, like if you want to make it as a secondary, give it a stroke, like give it a like a boundary. Yeah, that's good. Like yeah, that is possible, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Cool. Yeah. Okay. Will the neutral font colors, gray, are recommended for highly dark and light colors? Are you talking about dark mode, bro? Heartbeats. Hey, bro. Welcome to this session too. Are you talking about like dark mode? If you are talking about dark mode, yes, you have to use gray color itself. That is that will make it stand out. What exactly? I didn't get your point, bro. Like, can you please explain it? Bot means like open up your mic, dude. It's fine, totally fine. Same like last session. Font colors, yes, gray. You can obviously use it. Like this will create a higher contrast. If you are thinking about contrast, yes, definitely go for it. Use neutral font colors over highly dark and light colors, because that will create a clear contrast between your, UI elements. Not able to open mic. Yeah, cool, bro. It's fine. I hope you get my point. Yeah. Any more question, guys? Anything to ask?
So then I have one more doubt.
Yeah, bro.
I know it's good to do a certification course in UI UX, but it is really important for the
No.
placement.
No, actually, nobody's going to give a damn about your certification, really, because just like a resume, what like HR will do is that they are going to look at your portfolio rather than your certification. Certification anyone can get, but if you want to prove your point, you have to make a good case study, and you have to also make a good portfolio. So portfolios are pretty much important rather than certification. So certifications are not that important. They are not actually required also for UI design to start out as a UI or UX designer. I hope you get my point, bro.
Yeah, I got your point.
So, if you're looking for a career in design, it's basically about your portfolio. And portfolio in the sense you need to work on multiple problem statements, and the portfolio should be the one person who is seeing your portfolio should be able to see that there is a growth from where you started and where you are right now. And at the same time, you should be receiving feedback from experienced people, if at all it's possible for you to receive feedbacks from experienced people and know what kind of changes you are supposed to make. Then that would be a great thing to add on to. You can make change, or else you will be continuing in the same phase. So it's better to have somebody give you feedbacks on your designs, and you analyzing it and making necessary changes to it. So nobody can tell you what to do exactly. They cannot just spoon feed you what to do. They can they can do is just give you feedbacks.
Yes. Thank you, Gautam. Thank you.
Yeah, basically, feedbacks and mentorship is what actually makes a difference from an average to a great designer. That's pretty true. That's really correct. Thanks, Gautam. Thanks for that. So that's it for this session. Thanks for attending this session. I'm hoping all of you guys in the next upcoming sessions. So thanks for joining in, and bye-bye.